So you want to stand toe-to-toe with the big bad, trading blows as your rage powers you to keep pushing forward, hitting harder, faster, until finally, victory. Well, Barbarian might be the class just for you. So, Barbarian is one of the greatest, biggest, and baddest classes, one of the most well-known ones too, through all of media too. But, do you know how to play him? Through this video, I'm going to kind of give you the basic overview of what you get during each level as you level up, and give you a rough overview of all the subclasses, and kind of a little bit of idea of what they do, 8 in total, just in case you're curious. And make sure to stay till the end of this view so you can know the perfect way to min-max your Barbarian to be the tank, the mighty damage sponge that'll make all the other players and possibly your DM jealous, and even maybe drive him up the wall with the amount of damage you're going to absorb and the amount of damage you're going to take and brush off without even a second thought. Let's get on into it. Level 1. What do you get with this raging beast? Well, of course, rage. What else would you need to get with him? Rage. What do you get? So, you enter Rage as a bonus action. What happens when you enter Rage? Well, now you have advantage on strength saving throws and strength checks, along with any melee weapon you're using that is a strength-based melee weapon. Now it gets a extra bonus to its damage roll that is set out in a column on the level sheet that you'll be able to see. And you also gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. So while you're in this form, you are resistant to most physical forms of damage. But there are a few drawbacks. What are they? Well, if you want to try to cast some spells in there, don't even worry about it. While you're raging, you won't be able to cast spells or concentrate on spells. Now, rage does last for 1 minute or 10 rounds of combat, but will end before that if you're knocked unconscious or if your turn ends and you have not attempted to attack a hostile creature or have taken damage since your last turn. And you can also end your rage as a bonus action and then restart again later on if you so choose, because some subclasses, that could be a small benefit. But what else do you get? Well, don't forget about that unarmored defense. While you're not wearing armor, your AC now becomes 10 plus your dex modifier plus your con modifier. So don't forget about putting a couple points onto those dex and con modifiers during that. Now, do know you cannot wear armor to gain the benefits of this, but you can apply a shield to get an extra little bonus to your AC. Nice little tidbit if you need just a little bit extra of AC just to squeeze on in there. But that does it for level 1. What about level 2? What do you get? Well, 2 more things once again. How about that? Reckless Attack and Danger Sense. Reckless Attack, starting at level 2, you throw away all signs of concern. You just go straight at it, and you take your weapon and you cleave down. So now you get advantage on your attack. But one thing to note, this has to be done on your first attack, and until your next turn, any creature that takes an attack against you now has advantage because you threw away all concern. You're completely wide open. So definitely make sure you know what's around you before you use this ability. Next up on the docket, Danger Sense. You have the uncanny sense to sense danger afoot anytime it's around you. Guess what? You now have advantage on dexterity saving throws. Pretty cool, right? Now you're getting even stronger. It's always fun being stronger. Now you do have to be able to see them, so if you're blinded, incapacitated, or unconscious, this will not go into effect. So do note that for any time you're planning on using this. Okay, so that's level 2. Let's get on to level 3, the big stuff. Okay, so you got level 3 up. Now you get to choose your primal path or your subclass. 8 possible subclasses. I know it's mind-boggling, the choices that you may have. But don't worry, there's some that are really good, there's some that are bad, and there's even some that you may even want to just give a try for the fun of it. So don't be scared to try any of these subclasses. Now, come towards the end, though, there is one that will rule them all. Okay, first up on the docket, Path of the Ancestral Garden. Pretty cool subclass. You draw upon the power of your ancestors. Can be a very cool one to do. But do know, this is a spellcasting style subclass. So raging is not going to really be an option. You're going to have to plan ahead, because you'll get stuff like shield, but you can't cast it and you can't do any concentration spells while you're raging. So you got to plan ahead. Cast that spell, then rage. May be kind of a bad thing, because the point of being a barbarian is to be able to take those hits and dish them right back out. But let's move on to the next. Okay, Path of the Battle Rager. This one's a pretty interesting, but there's one bit of criteria that usually kind of pulls it back on you. This is only for dwarves. Now, the big thing about this is there's like a spiked armor that you'll use that'll cause some extra damage and stuff. It is a pretty cool class, and you might even check it out and see if your DM's maybe willing to kind of push apart that dwarves only part, so you can pay the race or species now that you're wanting to know. Hey guys, wait up there real quick. Before we continue, go ahead and scroll on down there, hit that like button, hit the subscribe, and go ahead and hit that bell icon so when you're notified when the next video comes out. Path of the Beast. So you want to just hulk out and start almost growing fur, claws as you rage into this ungodly monstrosity. Well, Path of the Beast might be the one for you, because as you go through here, you'll gain certain benefits to your physical appearance and to your own physical damage types, as like growing claws for your unarmored strike to now be a D6 instead of a D4, which can be pretty good if you're kind of looking for more of that hand-to-hand combat style. Okay, Path of the Berserker, possibly one of the coolest subclasses for Barbarian, but there's some drawbacks to this class, so be warned when you go to check this out. Definitely look into Frenzy and all the rules on. But if you want to be the full-on raging man who just does not stop and just keeps swinging and swinging and swinging until he's completely kaput, then this may be the subclass for you. Path of the Storm Herald. Your rage just overflows, and as it pours out into the world around you, it slowly is entwined with the very essence of the elements, giving you very own spiritual and magical mantles. Now this one's a pretty cool one for during raging, because you'll be able to get some specialty things like magic shield and stuff like that without having to be too much of the spells. Now it's not magic shield exactly, but it's some pretty cool stuff like Storm Aura, Storm Rage. You kind of get the gist. Definitely one to check out though. Path of the Totem Warrior, possibly my favorite subclass for Barbarian. This one is a great one for any first-time player. You'll get a few spells that you can cast, nothing major, nothing that's really useful during battle, but some that can be really good outside of battle for usefulness. But then you choose your path. You'll choose one of multiple paths to choose that will give you special features to your character that'll make them like no other. And each time you get to a new primal path, you'll be able to choose a different one for whatever feature you want. You can even get to the point where you can even have burst of flying. Maybe you want to see in the dark. Maybe you want to take even more damage. There's a little hint for you. Or maybe you're a zealot, the path of the zealot. Maybe you're the big, ferocious, one mighty man of God that can pour his pure rage into a divine energy as you strike down on these many foes of yours. Well, Zealot is one of the very cool ones. This one's kind of more of those ones if you kind of like a little bit of the idea of the paladin, but you'll want to get a little bit crazy with it. Definitely one to check out. Path of the Wild Magic. This one's a fun one for any first timer. Your rage will cause the magic around you to pull forth and do wild, unthinkable things. You'll have a full-on set list that you'll roll for, so every time you go into rage, something new will happen. Something new, strange, and magical. Okay, so we got through the big part, level 3, Primal Path. But what do you get next? Okay, so now we're on to level 4. So now it's time for some ability score improvements. This is definitely the point where you can either choose to up your ability scores, giving them a +1 or +2, maybe even to find some kind of cool feat there. You never know. You might want to choose lucky. You maybe find something that gives your ability score still a little bit of a bump, but gives you a couple little cool features from that feat. Definitely look through the list and figure out which one you're going to want, because once you choose it, it's going to be with you. But there's a lot of good options, especially for Barbarian. Okay, level 5. This is going to be a big one for any Barbarian player out there. Level 5 is where you now get an extra attack. So when you're in combat, each time you have an action, instead of one attack, you take 2. So you take 2 full-on swings against that big bad of yours as you're going toe-to-toe with them. Definitely a big level for you. And don't forget, fast moving. Your movement speed is now increased at level 5. So now you're moving faster than anybody else. Possibly. There are a few others that can move pretty fast, but you're definitely moving for such a big guy. Okay, time to go to level 6. What do you get on level 6? Well, guess what? Time to upgrade that Primal Path again. New path feature, new option. Who knows? Which one did you choose? Did you get something new? Did you get something really interesting? Or did you get something that's a little more moderate? Maybe you got something that you thought would be really useful and not mainly combat. Or maybe you decide to go full on into that combat and now you're going to pull out that big damage against everybody. Okay, level 7. Now you got Feral Instinct. You now have advantage on your initiative rolls. Those rolls you make right there before combat to set your place in combat, you now have advantage on them. Who says you don't want to go first all the time now? Oh, but and one thing too, to always make sure if anyone tries to get that little bit of a drop on you, that little bit of a surprise attack, as long as you're not incapacitated and you're in rage before the start of that turn, you act as if nothing just happened. You knew it all along. Everyone else, they're crazy. And bring it on back to level 8. Time for another ability score improvement. Up those scores maybe, grab new feat, go take a look, think what you want to do. Don't forget too, intelligence, even though you're barbarian, might be useful. Investigation can be a thing that can be very helpful in a barbarian. Okay, so now you're up to the big level 9. Now you get something really cool. Brutal critical. What does that mean? Well, have you ever critted yet as a barbarian? That extra damage you do? Well, how about you add one more damage dice to that? Yep, you get now an extra damage dice every time you crit. Now you're doing even more damage when you crit on top of the already enormous amount of damage you're probably doing as this being a barbarian. Okay, back up to level 10. What do you get? Well, guess what? Time for another primal path. Time to up it again. What are you choosing? Getting some more wild magic? You maybe getting that divine smite, maybe? Or maybe you're choosing a new path in that totem warrior. Let's see what goes. Okay, so now we're up to level 11. Now we're getting to the kind of crazy realm with this thing. Your rage, so you are in such an amount of anger, you can't die. Okay, so what do I mean? I'm going to kind of break this one down because this one's a pretty big one for this. So while you're fighting, if you drop to 0 hit points, you then have a chance to roll on a Constitution saving throw of a DC 10. If you make it, you instead of dropping to 0, you only drop to 1. So you're still in the fight, you're still swinging, you're still hitting. Now you can keep doing this, but the thing is, each time you do it, it goes up by 5. So hope you're rolling high. Now, one thing to note though is, every time you do a long rest though, it does reset back to 10. So now you're an unkillable rage monster. Okay, up to level 12, what do you got? Ability score improvement once again. Maybe another feat? Time to decide. Okay, level 13. Back up to this one. Brutal critical. Now instead of 1 dice, it's 2 dice. Crit with an extra 2 damage dice. Doing major damage right now. Okay, now we're up to level 14. Time for another primal path. Now you're going completely crazy with some of the stuff you can do. I know you're just beating every big bad down, making all the other players jealous. I bet they wish they picked Barbarian now, huh? Okay, now we're up to level 15. What's going on with level 15? Persistent rage. What? So your rage now is so pure and so strong that the only thing that can stop it is being knocked unconscious. You have to drop to 0 hit points or have something done to you to where you become unconscious to stop your rage, or if you so choose to, stop yourself, of course. But screw that, who cares? Who's going to stop you now? Up at level 16, another ability score improvement. At this point, nah, just get those feats, get some extra stuff in there, do some crazy stuff, get some new things. Maybe you want to cast a spell or two. Now might be the time, you might go and grab one. Okay, level 17. Guess what, your brutal critical? Even more now, 3 extra dice. What are we talking about now? This has just gone crazy. Level 18, Indomitable Might. You roll for that strength check. Your check comes up just a tad bit short. Nah, I'll just use my score instead. So maybe you're a barbarian, you have all those pluses now. Maybe you're at a higher than 20. Guess what? You're never failing a check again unless it's just astronomical. Level 19, one more time. Ability score improvement or feat. Take your pick. What are you going to do now? Okay, and finally, the big 20. The big 20th level. What are you getting? You're now the primal champion. Your subclass is now up to its might. You know every bit about it. You are stronger than strong, mightier than mightier. You can now devastate cities, take on any big bad and kill them in just 1 hit. Or at least you kind of like to think so in my head, so. But hey, you made it to level 20, so now you are the almighty barbarian, whichever subclass you chose. Who's going to stop you now? Another big bad? Please. Okay, so now probably for the biggest part of this video, min-maxing your next barbarian. Okay, so what are you really going to want to do? Well, this is actually pretty simple for barbarians. Barbarian's one of the most easiest classes to start off with, and it can be one of the most fun too. So what are you going to do? Well, you start off on barbarian, of course. Level 1, 2, you get all the same stuff. Now level 3 hits. What subclass are you going to pick? Remember totem warrior? Well, that one has one specific special thing about it. What is it? Well, totem warrior has the bear totem. What does the bear totem do? It extends your resistances while you're raging on to everything except psychic. So you're now resistant to all forms of damage except psychic damage while raging as a bear totem warrior. Now that sounds pretty cool to me. And at only 3rd level, then as you keep leveling up, it's just more and more, and then you can choose even other primal paths. But that's really going to be the big thing, is at level 3 being able to choose that. But what if I told you there's one way you can take it even farther to be the ultimate take and the ultimate damage sponge? Well, what are you going to need for that? Well, I could definitely recommend checking out Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. That's going to be your big thing here. And you might be like, but why do I need a separate book for that? Well, there's one specific reason. This is why I recommend this. Is there's a specific subspecies or subrace, whichever you want to say, in that book that has a resistance to psychic damage. The Gemstone Dragonborn. So now, if you've ever played a Dragonborn, or if you even just looked at the Dragonborns, they're a pretty cool race or species. I do say so myself. Part of their thing is their draconic resistance. What does that entail? Usually it's based on their color. Whatever color they have represents a type of damage that they are then resistant to. Well, okay. With Fizban's, though, when you get that book, you get the specialty subspecies of Emerald Gemstone Dragons. The Emerald Gemstone Dragon has a breath weapon or a general damage type of psychic. So with that being said, their draconic resistance then is psychic. So by level 3, if you choose an Emerald Gemstone Dragon, you are now resistant to all forms of damage while raging though. Now some people might say, well, an ultimate tank build might be more AC. But the thing is though, AC can kind of be judged on how well you roll or what armor you have. And so if you can't get that armor or you don't have that good roll, you may not be able to dodge as much damage as you want to. This is your one sure way by level 3 to be able to resist all forms of damage and be that ultimate damage punch that will drive your DM just absolutely nuts. But hey, if you enjoyed this video, thank you all for watching. Happy adventuring.